Welcome to Private Banking Strategies Podcast with Vance, Lowe, and Seth Hicks, your secret weapon to protect your assets and never have to start over financially again. Vance and Seth help high net worth individuals, families, business owners, and investors structure an asset-protected, tax-free fortress for their families. Learn how to keep what you earn and use the velocity of money to create your own private banking system. Join us on this journey as we explore the secret strategies of the rich and political elite and help you take total control of your financial security. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to Private Banking Strategies Podcast with Vance, Lowe, and Seth Hicks. How are you, Vance?
I'm doing great. Seth, how are you doing?
Doing great. Folks, this is a multi-part series on the volume rate of return and interest rates, and we are knee-deep in a case study on a chiropractor that was so deep in debt, didn't think that they would ever be able to get out of debt. And in the first part of this series, we laid some foundation and described the background of the chiropractor and his business and the debt that he was in. And we started to show folks how he created his own private family bank and began to purchase his high interest credit card debts and other debts that he owed to third parties and restructure the cash flow that was going out of his control and bring it back into his control and into his own family banking system. And he liquidated a 401k to jumpstart that. It wasn't a huge sum. It was some that Vance describes before, and it's actually on the shared screen, about $30,000 in total availability to put to work. So you don't have to be mega wealthy, and you can be in dire circumstances to implement this strategy. We like to explain that this strategy can work for anybody and everybody so long as you live within your means, you observe Parkinson's law, which means that you spend less than you make. And if you can do that, you can make private banking strategies work for you. So we're going to pick it up right now with where we left off in the first part. And Vance, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. We're kind of knee deep in evaluating this one client. But what we're trying to do is bring back independence. Our book is titled What the Banks Don't Want You to Know, because they've taken it out of our education system. This information is critical that we are able to use. Back in the day when our country was being settled, it was pretty much all wilderness. Families could get in a covered wagon, go out in the wilderness, and they could survive. They knew how because they were taught the independence. Well, in today's modern world, the independence is running our own private economy where society, the banks, the government says you don't need to worry about that. We'll take care of you. That's not independence. That's crippling slavery. So we have a very fresh approach here, we think, in evaluating this guy. Up to this, I'm not going to reiterate what we've talked about for him individually or his family. I'm just going to pick up. We're evaluating loans. And you can see up in the upper right portion, 13 of the loans listed here that he owed. So we evaluated one of the practices, number 6, last time, so you can listen to that. I want to go up and look at some of these others. Let's take a look at Chase Bank here, number 4, and evaluate that. This one, he owed $5,500. His payment was $141, but look at the interest. He'd been penalized way back then, and he was having to pay 29%. And back then, we had usury laws that wouldn't let us go too high, and he was at the max. So we have a software that we evaluate that. Again, let's remember $5,500, 141, and 29% interest. So let's go here. Okay, Seth, when you look at these numbers, and we only need 3 numbers to decide whether we want to buy a debt or not. We need to know how much money we have to come up with to put to work to buy the debt. We need to know what the payment is, and we need to know what the interest rate is. What will folks out there say when I said, when I look at this debt, I would buy this debt in a heartbeat? I mean, I'm drooling to buy this debt. What are they going to tell me? Well, why? What's the reason I want to buy this debt?
Most people focus on the interest rate, and that is their measure for the value of the loan.
Okay, so I want to show you something. 29%, that's a pretty good interest rate. It's mostly taxable, but we, in our system here, we create no taxable events. But I want to show you something. I'm going to go through here and then I'm going to change the interest rate and you're going to see what I mean. So I've got to come up with $5,500. The interest to me is the volume of return. Volume of return means control of money back in my hand. Okay, I bought the debt for 55. What am I going to get per month? 141. What does that equal per year? 1692. Okay, so if I divide 1692 by the money at work, I get my volume of return, which is 30.8%. I ask you out there, folks, is that high enough? Sometimes I tease people and say, well, you're not smiling. What if we make it totally tax-free? So now that this loan is set up, it won't be about just getting back the $5,500, because I asked people, how long would you like this to last? And they said forever. Okay. So if we ran it out for 5 years, the financial planning is taking 5 times 1692. That's 8460. Okay. Not a bad number. We made good money. The interest on that, by the way, was a lot, not just on this. This interest over here is not correct. The interest annually is $1,595 on this one debt. What I want you to focus on, and then I'll correct what I just said here and show you why. Look straight down from the yellow and you'll see what we're going to do. We're not after financial planning. Those boys still didn't understand money, didn't know how it worked or anything else. We were taught what to say, what to do. And when the light came on, we just were working for government and for the banking. Okay. This strategy that you stumbled on is changing us from spending money to using money. So on the banking side of things, they always get the money back. So we're going to lend out $5,500, and the first year we got back $1,692. What are we going to do with that money, Seth?
We're going to put it back to work.
We're going to go buy more debt. We're going to assume the same volume rate of return. So look at year 2 down here underneath the yellow. You'll see the income for that year will be $2213. Why? Because that 16, I'm going to go buy more debt, and at a 30% volume rate of return is going to provide $521 in addition to the 1692. That equals 2213. And in year 3, we're going to keep adding 521, and then we're going to put the 521 from the prior year to work for another 160. And we're going to continue to do that all the way through here, folks. So the number you need to look at for banking purposes, and this is what the banks are doing on you and your deposits, they're making $14,774 compared with $8,400. If we double that, it'll go to $11,000. So we're at least 1.5 times in 5 years. How many of your accounts has doubled like that with no risk and no taxes? This is private. This is all private. If you continued it on, it'd 10 times, it'd go a whole lot more, it'd be 47,000. And this is on the lower end of some of the loans that we evaluate. So this is just one of those credit cards, and it's the reason we want to buy that credit card. Every time we reinvest or buy more debt with this 1692 and this 521 and the 160, the payments to us increase, come back to us at a larger amount. And we've taken on that much more interest. So over that time, out of this 14,774, 5,300 of that will be earned from interest. Okay. And that's tax free to us. So let's evaluate another one, and let's just kind of go down this list a little bit. There's a lot to do and a lot to talk about. They had an IRS loan. Folks, there's a lot of issues with the IRS, a lot of things happening. That 1040 form kind of binds us to living and playing with their game. We're fine with that. But let's just take his situation here. Whenever you owe the IRS, they're going to come up with a payment. Usually penalties are included in this, and they're going to charge a healthy interest rate. Way back then, it was 10.5%. So let's do this loan. Let's evaluate that. That'll be a little bit different for us. Let's see, 10,180. 425 and 10.5. 10, 180, 425. Here we go. Except, yeah, and it's got the 0.5% in there. It just rounds it up, for these columns. This one is a lot better loan to buy.
Was it 10.5%?
Yeah, and it's there. See, if I put the 5 up there, it's just going to round it up. So how about this volume rate of return? This is a 50% volume rate of return. This is even a better loan, and we're still not at halfway. Halfway is 60%. You're going to have 60% and more, and the other half will be 60% and less. Okay? So 50% rate of return, that's pretty darn high. That's $5,100 per year times 5 in financial planning. That's $25,000. So we turn $10,000 into $25,000. Okay. But then when we do banking and we start buying the rest of our debt and we start owning that and having the payment come in, look what happens. Instead of $25,000, just like we've explained earlier, it turns to $60,000, and this is not taxable. That's why I did this software, because I had all these loans out that I was buying, and I wanted to create some advantage for myself, some reason, some motivation for myself to keep this going. On credit cards, folks, again, it's not about only getting back what you purchased the payoff at. If this still fits your budget, see, this $425 is part of the budget that you're using every month. So there's no change, Seth, right?
You're not working any harder. You're not getting a second job. You don't have to earn more. You just simply have to redirect who gets the payments you're making.
Right. So if you split yourself and call you the owner, and then the guy looking back at you in the mirror, your client, okay, that's what we really have to do. Because we've kind of been taught that the guy in the mirror doesn't have to account for anything. And here's a good example I'd like to share on that and what the real problem everyone faces. And if you're listening to this, you're probably facing this too. The person in the mirror is robbing you blind. And here's why. They're living in your house. They're eating your food. They're driving your car, bringing it back empty. They're playing with your toys. They're wearing everything out. And they're doing it all for free. Now, if you don't think that's a problem and you can't get your head around that, look at it this way. You hear a knock at the door. You open the door. I'm standing there with my suitcase. And I said, hello, I'm coming in and I'm going to live in your house now. Oh, of course, I get to live here free. I'm going to eat all your food or all the food I want to eat. I get to drive your car anytime I want to drive it, bring it back empty, use all your utilities, wear things out. How long are you going to let me do that for free? I actually go through that about as fast as it takes for you to turn around and hope the door doesn't hit you in the backside. So they're not going to put up with that, but yet they do that to themselves. And Seth, I think Nelson in his book has a great concept in the grocery store story, and we have to assume that we're the grocery store owner. What's the gist of that story? Why did he put that in there?
He wants people to understand that the repayment cycle and paying your own bank back is a critical cornerstone to the strategy. And if you steal from yourself, you will not be successful with private banking. You won't be successful with anything.
Yeah, you won't. I used to do a study on business startups because I used to help counsel and new startup companies and take them to the next level in some of the work that I did. And it was always amazing. Out of 10 startup companies, 5 were gone in the first 5 years. And the sad story is that 4 more are gone in the next 5 years. And the number one culprit was they stole from themselves. See, in a grocery store story, if you're the owner of the grocery store, most people out there in the world make this huge mistake. Oh man, if I owned the grocery store, I could have all the groceries I wanted for free, right? They'll come in and they'll pick up what they want and they go out the back. They don't go through the cash register. If I'm a manufacturing trailers or whatever I'm in business for, if I take it my own or I give my family and friends a discount, that business can never, ever be as profitable as it should be, number one, or it could be. And you risk losing that business because you are forcing all of those clients to subsidize your theft. This is where the wealthy family always use mottos like keep the money in the family. They actually acquire restaurants, car dealerships, malls, and require their families to shop at their places that they own. No discount. They have to pay full retail price. Why is that? Who's getting the profit? It's an oxymoron. I don't understand now in life why I wouldn't have my whole family pay the retail price, because that profit's going to come back in. And if the whole family is benefiting from the growth of the grocery store or whatever the business is, we're all going to be better off. And we get the money back. Keep the money in the family. That means the money is cycling back all the time. When you own business, then all the other people who participate in your business, who shop there, you're going to get the profits off of that. So what we're trying to unveil here, Seth, and for all of our listeners, is why there are lending companies out there. What kind of money do they make? Everybody thinks that, okay, it's this $25,000. It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with this. Banks are into this $60,000 in this instance. This is how they operate. And they don't use any of their own money to do it. They use our money. If this was a just system and wasn't so corrupt, we, from our deposits, can make half of that, a fair 50-50 split. They're doing all the work, but we're providing all the money.
Did that story feel like it was about you? Do you feel like you are generating a lot of revenue, but are not moving forward as fast as you would like? Do you feel you should be making more progress toward your financial goals? Do you feel stuck? Let us help you get unstuck. Are you ready to take action and get your own private bank? Please visit us at www.privatebankingstrategies.com.
So these valuations on this guy's loan, I think we kind of get that gist. What I want to go into is follow the money, or follow the trail now. So we know that we're buying debt. We know how we're doing it. The only thing they're adding into this was their extra payments on the credit card and 10%, we call it the 10% law, the 10% rule, out of their income. They have to pay themselves right off the top 10% first. And that's what this 1667 is. Last time we evaluated, in year one, they were able to take out 5 debts, 4 in the first month, and the practice paid itself off in the 8th month. And by the end of year one, let's just take a look at that. By the end of year one, the money they had borrowed from the policy, remember they borrowed everything they could, this $11,000 or $12,000 from the policy. They put all the money, this monthly payment now of $20 or $2,020, it all went back up into the policy until month 5, which they only got in a portion of that. And now the policy's full, so the money has to sit in their bank, in their, we call it a clearing account. It's their lending company's checking account. There's $16,000 here. Well, what are we going to do with that $16,000? So let's look at year 2. We're going to take this $16,000, move it over here. It's called the miscellaneous account. I call that account, let's go back up there, this miscellaneous account, the inefficient account. I call the policy loan account the efficient account. Policy loans are not obligations. They're not liabilities. They're your remaining assets out working for you. If you get zeros here, that means they're all in on the shelf. All the money sitting up here in the policy on the shelf is earning guaranteed rates plus profits, income tax free. And that stays pace or beats the stock market. It has through the history of America. Let's just go down to month 13 now. I'll leave that up there. So here's the 16. Cash value's back. We got $28,000 to start year 2 with. So we're going to take 20 of that, put it in the policy. Okay, that'll leave us with $8,400. But that 20 is going to immediately up front produce another $14,000 or $15,000. And we're going to add that to the $8,400, borrow against that, so that we've got $21,000. So we're only in month 13, 1 year and 1 month. And we're going to buy 3 more debts. We're going to buy the Barclays, the US Bank, and the IRS.
Okay, let's back up for a second, Vance, and let's explain again how our client had the money to go purchase those debts. Let's walk through that mechanics again, because that was pretty fast, and how we got to that $21,000 again that's going to go purchase the next set of debt.
Okay, that's a good question there. Our cash flow, our volume of return. Remember, he's paying from income and the overpayments of the credit cards, this 1667.
So he's got $1,667, and that equals 2 patients a day, as he said, in his practice that he could set aside to fund banking. And it also, then we're adding to it the $353 he was paying to Target, Sears, Home Depot, and another Chase credit card. And then we're adding in what was going to pay out the Wallace practice. He had a purchase agreement to purchase Mr. Wallace's practice. And once he had that paid off, instead of just spending that $1,000 he was used to paying on the debt service, he put that into the hopper, put into the pile in his own private bank, correct?
Right. Which
Okay.
brought total to $3,074 a month. So another clarification, Seth, are we freeing this money up or are we tying it up?
We're freeing it up.
See, folks, you need to understand that. A lot of times we won't pay ourselves because we think it's a complication or this is going to tie the money up. It's not. It's freeing it up so you can put it to work. The secret of financial success is having money producing money for you. Every single month that is increasing while you're in the workforce throughout your life so that eventually you can have a lifestyle change and live off of those payments. And we're showing you how they build up. There's no risk here. He's not working any harder. And yet in less than 1 year, he's got $3,000 coming in that pretty much was going away, minus what he's paying himself. So I think that's pretty incredible. For further clarification, we'll kind of keep that bottom row on year one up here because he can't fit it inside his policy. This is another catch-22 with these things. We can't dump all the money in at one time. They have what's called the modified endowment laws. And if we break those rules, then the cash in those accounts are reportable and the growth is taxed to us. So we want to stay on the right side of that so it stays anonymous and tax advantaged. So we have in our bank account, in our checking account, earning zero amount of interest to start year two. We're going to add the cash value that's back in the policy. The next premium is due now, and that premium is like purchasing this bank. You know, you've got to put so much money in before it starts making you a profit. But you can see how close when I put in 20, that's going to generate 14.5. And if I add that to the remainder, so 28 minus 20 gives us 84.56. Because we paid the 20 up front, we're going to get the cash value up front, which is 14.5. And we're going to add that back to the 8,400. Now we borrow money. We can't rob from our life insurance company either. These contracts make us owners of the life insurance company, and we get profits every single year. I do not have those in here. I've hindered the program because they're unknown, and I'm only putting in the guarantees. So when we borrow from the cash reserves of the life insurance company against our cash value, we got to pay a little bit of interest to assure our profit because they could have lent that out somewhere else. And so we're going to put that in. I put that a little bit extra high. Anyway, we've got 21.5 to go by debt starting month 13. So we're into this 1 year and 1 month. We've got 2 premiums paid. How much did he start out with, Seth?
Originally in the very beginning?
Originally in the 401k.
Started out with 29 some, almost 30.
Yeah, almost 30. And now we've paid 2 $20,000 premiums. Okay, we're in year 2. And we bought 5 debts. And we've got $21,000 and we're going to buy 3 more debts in 13 months. How are we doing so far?
We're doing great. A lot of what was headwind pushing you down is turning into tailwind, giving you lift.
Now the price, the monthly payments on these 3 debts was $844. Oh yeah, okay. So where are we here? Go back to year 2. Sorry, I'm flipping around so much. So we now own all of this debt. We own 8 debts out there that we have purchased. And now we're at $39.18 coming in from all of those payments. So out of all the outflow, we've got $3,900 coming back into us if we add those 2 office patient visits of new income. And look how fast this policy loan gets paid off. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So it's looking better. I'm seeing more zeros over in the miscellaneous account, and I'm seeing more numbers in the policy loan. To me, I want our policy loans maxed out. I want to see the miscellaneous count at 0. because the money in this account earns nothing. It's vulnerable to the Dodd-Frank Act, whatever. But there's $20,000 here. So right off the bat, there's enough excess right here to pay year three's premium without digging in. So let's see what we got here to start 2 years and 1 month. We have $20,000 in the miscellaneous account. We have $26,000 in cash value. That's $47,000. Okay. We've bought 8 debts, and now we're going to put the third payment into the bank. So a minus 20, we're at 27. But look what it's creating. We're getting 100% now, almost credited to the premium going in. So we're going to add that back in, subtract interest. We got $44,000 to go buy debt. Have we had to work any harder?
No.
We haven't even changed any part of our lifestyle, have we?
Not a bit.
Not a bit. And look, we can buy 3 more debts. The Wallace practice, which was the last competition that he had in town, he was buying out all of his competition. He had a friend that lent him a lot of money, and he was able to buy that debt, pay that off, and then my own personal signature loan at First Trust Bank. I mean, that's quite a bit of money there. So look here, folks, in 25 months, he's only got 2 debts left out of 13. So now, how long do you think it's going to take him to get out of debt when he gets the money back and can reuse it? This is what we need to discover in our life, just like banks. It's so phenomenal to all of a sudden figure, hey, instead of spending the money and having to go back and start all over from scratch, if I just used it and got it back and used it and got it back, here's cash flow coming back. In month 25, we almost double our cash flow to $6,900 per month.
Well, let's pause right there. We're about to close the chapters on this case study, and the best is yet to come, folks. So we want to take a break here. That's a good place to segue into the final part of this podcast series. And if you want to jump in now and learn more, you can't wait for next week's podcast, go over to our website at privatebankingstrategies.com. That's privatebankingstrategies.com, and there you'll have a free ebook offer pop up that Vance and I wrote, and it's called How to Grow Rich with the Secret That Banks Don't Want You to Know. And it's a red pill book that illustrates a number of concepts like this one that teach you how you can change your entire wealth trajectory. And that book is made completely free to our guests. You can listen to it in an audio file, or you can read it in a PDF. Just simply put your name in and your email address, and you'll get access to that book. And then after listening to that book and these podcasts, if they're resonating with you, schedule an exploratory call. You'll be getting an invitation for an exploratory call with Vance through email. And once you get into that exploratory process, you can actually plug in your numbers, your financial situation into our software and into this type of analytics, and we can show you exactly where you'll be month over month over an 8-year period, not working harder, not changing jobs and having to get a bonus or getting a second job, but simply restructuring who gets the money that comes under your control. This is a powerful, powerful concept. Tune in for the third part where we're going to close the chapter, give you the final conclusion, and tell you what this chiropractor client was able to do in his life through this private banking strategies. It's absolutely phenomenal, as you can already see. If you've listened to part 1 and part 2, you can see where we're going. It's picking up speed and picking up momentum like a snowball becoming an avalanche rolling down the mountain. Vance, any closing comments?
I just leave a thought with everybody, and Nelson Nash in his book said this so eloquently. It's not so much what we don't know about money that hurts us, but Seth, it's all about what we think we know about money that's incorrect, that really nails us.
That's right. Well, thanks, folks. Tune in for the third part of this series, and we'll see you there.
Did that story feel like it was about you? Do you feel you should be making more progress toward your financial goals? Do you feel stuck? Let us help you get unstuck. Are you ready to take action and get your own private bank? Please visit us at www.privatebankingstrategies.com.
Thank you for listening to the Private Banking Strategies Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.